We live in a world where distractions are endless and instant gratification is only a tap away. Every moment, there's a temptation, comfort, indulgence, ease. It's easy to lose ourselves in these small, fleeting pleasures. But here's the truth most people don't want to hear. Power doesn't come from doing what feels good. It comes from doing what's necessary, even when it's hard. And that right there is where self-mastery begins. Discipline over desire. It's a principle that separates the ones who drift from the ones who rise. Every man is tested not once, but every single day. You're tested when your alarm goes off at 5:30 and your body screams for more sleep. You're tested when you sit down to work and your phone lights up with a notification that pulls you into a loop of endless scrolling. You're tested when you know what needs to be done, but the easier option, the more comfortable option, is right in front of you. Those moments, they seem small, but they stack up. They shape who you are becoming. When you choose discipline, even in the smallest things, you're telling yourself, I run this, not my urges, not my laziness, not my comfort. That decision, repeated over time, builds something deeper than strength. It builds trust with yourself. And when a man can trust himself, he becomes unstoppable. Let's get one thing clear. Discipline isn't about punishment. It's not about denying yourself joy or living like a machine. It's about freedom. Freedom from being pulled in every direction by your impulses. It's about having control over your time, your energy, and your future. That's real freedom. That's real power. There's a version of you. You know it deep down that's sharper, more focused, more driven. You've caught glimpses of him. Maybe when you were deep in a workout. Maybe when you turned down a distraction to finish a task. Maybe when you spoke up with clarity, with strength. That version of you isn't some fantasy. He's real. But he only shows up when discipline leads the way. So how do you live like that consistently? You start by simplifying. You stop negotiating with yourself in moments of weakness. When it's time to get up, you get up. When it's time to work, you work. And when you feel that urge, the one to put it off, to escape, to quit, you pause. You recognize that voice for what it is, fear wearing the mask of comfort. The moment you start choosing what you should do over what you want to do, something changes inside. It's like lighting a fire, and every disciplined decision you make adds fuel to it. Eventually, it burns through excuses, through fear, through laziness. That fire becomes your edge. This path isn't flashy, it's not glamorous. No one claps when you wake up early. No one cheers when you sit down to focus instead of scrolling. But the results, they show up in your energy, in your confidence, in the quiet knowing that you are in control of your life. People often ask how to stay motivated. But motivation is fleeting, it comes and goes. What you need is something stronger, a standard. You set your own standard and you don't drop it when life gets uncomfortable. That's how you build consistency. That's how you build trust. That's how you build power that doesn't shake when life gets hard. Because it will get hard. And that's the point. The man you were meant to be isn't built in moments of ease. He's built when no one is watching. He's forged in quiet decisions, the ones no one celebrates but that shape everything. Saying no to that distraction. Saying yes to that workout. Finishing what you started. That's the foundation. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems, and your system, your structure, your routine, your habits must be built on discipline. That's the muscle you train every day. That's the habit you hardwire into your life. Because when the hard days come, and they will, it's not motivation that carries you. It's your discipline. It's your decision to do what's right when it's not easy. That's what turns ordinary men into exceptional ones. The future doesn't belong to the man who gives in to every urge. It belongs to the man who can delay gratification, stay focused, and act with intention. Discipline is your edge in a distracted world. It's your armor in a culture of comfort. It's the gateway to the power that most will never taste. Because self-mastery begins where excuses end. The most difficult battles you will ever face won't be against the economy, your competitors, or even the people who doubt you. The real battle, the one that defines everything else, is the one you fight inside yourself. Because the truth is, your greatest enemy isn't out there. It's in here. It's the voice that whispers, "You can't." It's the weight of self, doubt, fear, procrastination, ego. Mastering yourself means facing all of that, and most people don't. Most people spend their lives trying to outrun that voice, distract themselves from it, cover it with achievement or attention, but it never really goes away, not until you turn around and face it. There's a part of every one of us that's insecure, that's afraid of failing, afraid of not being enough, and what happens is, we create these walls around it. We pretend we're strong when we're uncertain. We act confident when we're doubting. But that gap, that disconnect between what we show and what we feel, is what eats away at us. Self-mastery starts when you stop lying to yourself, when you stop pretending and start doing the real work. Not the surface-level work, but the deep work, the kind that requires honesty and humility. You've got to be willing to look in the mirror and ask yourself, where am I holding myself back? What patterns am I repeating? What am I afraid to admit? Because once you face that version of yourself, once you confront your weaknesses, you no longer have to be afraid of them. You start to take ownership. And that ownership, that responsibility, is what gives you control. There's something powerful about looking at your flaws and saying, "This is mine, and I'm going to deal with it." That's how real growth happens. Not by hiding from your darkness, but by learning to walk through it and come out stronger. When you stop blaming the world and start asking, "What can I change?" you reclaim your power. That's when transformation starts. Not when your circumstances improve, but when your mindset does. And I'll be honest with you, this path isn't comfortable. It requires you to confront your laziness, your excuses, your bad habits. But discomfort is the price of growth. You can either choose comfort now and pay the price later, or pay the price now and live with strength and clarity. You can't have both. Some people wait for permission to change. They wait for the right environment, the right moment, the right people to support them. But the truth is, no one's coming to save you. No one's going to fight your inner battle for you. That's yours. That's the weight you have to carry and the hill you have to climb. And once you realize that, it changes everything. You stop waiting. You stop blaming. You start building. It's not about being perfect. It's about being real. You don't conquer yourself by pretending your weaknesses don't exist. You conquer yourself by owning them, and then choosing daily to rise above them. That's what separates the men who live with power from the ones who are controlled by their emotions, their ego, or their environment. When you understand that every challenge is a mirror, life starts to shift. The hard days, they reveal your patience. The failures, they show you your resilience. The criticism, it tests your humility. Life doesn't give you problems. It gives you chances to see where you still have work to do. And if you accept that, if you embrace that, you become dangerous. Because a man who knows himself deeply, who has faced his darkness and emerged with clarity, can't be shaken by much. The reason most people stay stuck isn't because they lack talent or intelligence. It's because they're at war with themselves. They haven't reconciled who they are with who they want to be. They haven't forgiven their past or committed fully to their future. They're trying to move forward while dragging the weight of unresolved thoughts, unspoken fears, and unchecked emotions. You can't run like that. You've got to stop, look inward, and do the work. Self-mastery isn't about control in the traditional sense. It's about awareness. It's knowing when your fear is speaking instead of your truth. It's recognizing when you're operating from pride instead of purpose. It's noticing when you're reacting out of habit rather than intention. That awareness creates choice. And choice is power. You don't have to be fearless, but you do have to be honest. And once you've owned your weaknesses, you take away their ability to control you. You stop being reactive. You start being intentional. You become the kind of man who doesn't just chase goals. He becomes someone worthy of achieving them. So don't look outward for the next breakthrough. Look inward. That's where your edge is. The path to becoming who you were meant to be always runs straight through the man you are now. And your power starts the moment you stop running from him. Most people are waiting for some big moment to change their lives, some massive turning point, some lightning strike of clarity or motivation, but that's not how real change works. That's not how transformation happens. The truth is, power isn't built in big, dramatic moments. It's built slowly, quietly, in the background through small wins, repeated consistently, day after day. And if you're looking for self-mastery, for real inner strength, then you have to understand this. Consistency is the real power. We live in a world obsessed with outcomes. Everyone wants the result. Everyone wants to be successful, disciplined, respected. But not many are willing to build the habits that lead there. They want the reward without the repetition. But life doesn't work that way. You don't become powerful because you made one great decision. You become powerful because you make the right decisions over and over again, especially when no one's watching. And that's what separates the man who moves forward from the one who stays stuck. The difference isn't talent. It's not luck. It's not even knowledge. It's consistency. It's showing up on the days you don't feel like it. It's doing the work even when it's boring, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it feels like it's not working yet. That's where real self-mastery lives, in the daily grind, in the quiet, unglamorous repetition of doing what matters. Think about it. You don't get strong from one workout. You don't build discipline from one early morning. You don't gain clarity from one moment of reflection. These things are earned, built like muscle, and that takes time. But what's powerful is that every small action compounds. Every time you choose growth over comfort, you add a brick to the foundation. And over time, that structure becomes unshakable. The problem is, most people quit too soon. They start strong, but don't follow through. They make a plan, they get inspired, and then life gets in the way. A setback happens. Progress slows down. They lose motivation, and they stop. But what they don't realize is that the process was working. It just hadn't shown visible results yet. And that's the gap, the space between effort and outcome, where most people give up. But if you want mastery, if you want to become who you were meant to be, you have to learn to stay steady in that space. The people who achieve lasting change aren't the ones who move the fastest. They're the ones who move the longest. Who don't stop, who build systems, not streaks. That's a shift in mindset. Instead of asking, how can I do this perfectly? Ask, how can I do this consistently? Because perfect fades, but consistent sticks. Perfection burns you out. Consistency builds you up. And here's something else to think about. Every day, you're either reinforcing who you've been or becoming who you're meant to be. There's no standing still. You're always building something. The question is, what are you building? Are you reinforcing distraction, laziness, chaos? Or are you building focus, resilience, and direction? It's not about massive effort. It's about aligned effort repeated daily. Start small, be intentional. Wake up and win the first hour of your day, not with grand gestures, but with simple discipline. Control your inputs. Guard your attention. Prioritize your energy. These tiny wins, they set the tone, they give you momentum, and when you stack enough of them, your identity begins to shift. You stop being someone who tries to be disciplined, and you become someone who is disciplined. That's identity change. And that's when you become dangerous, because now it's who you are, not just what you do. You don't rise by accident. You rise by routine, and your routine doesn't need to be perfect. It needs to be yours, built around your goals, your values, your vision. Because the world will always try to pull you in 1,000 directions. But your routine, that's your anchor, that's your edge. And when the storms of life come, and they always do, it's not motivation that holds you steady. It's your consistency, your habits, your structure. That's what gives you peace in chaos. That's what keeps you sharp when others fall apart. So, if you really want power, if you want to live with clarity, strength, and purpose, stop looking for shortcuts. Stop waiting for the right time. Start showing up. Start keeping promises to yourself. Start stringing together small wins every day, no matter how you feel. Because those wins, they change you, they elevate you, they turn potential into performance. And over time, they make you into the kind of man who no longer needs to chase power because you are power. Mastery is built in silence through repetition by those who stay the course. One of the most important questions a man can ask himself is, what am I building my life toward? Because without direction, even the strongest discipline eventually wears thin. Without purpose, even the most consistent habits feel hollow. Self-mastery isn't just about control. It's about alignment. You don't become the man you were meant to be by just working harder. You become that man when your daily effort is anchored to something bigger than yourself. Purpose isn't something that lands in your lap. It's not found, it's built. It's shaped by paying attention to what matters most, by listening to that inner pull that tells you, this is the path. And when you begin to live with purpose, everything changes. You stop wasting energy on things that don't matter. You start becoming intentional, focused, clear. You no longer just react to life, you create it. And that's the shift. Most people spend their lives reacting. They follow trends, they chase comfort, they let the world decide who they should be. But the man who lives with purpose, he doesn't need the world to validate him. He already knows what he's here to do. He may not have all the answers, but he's anchored. He's not moved by every storm or shaken by every opinion, because he's rooted in something deeper than approval. He's driven by meaning. The truth is, if you don't decide your purpose, the world will hand you one. And it usually looks like distraction, consumerism, and mediocrity. You end up chasing things that look like success but feel empty. You climb ladders that don't matter. You achieve goals that were never truly yours. That's the cost of living without direction. A life full of motion but lacking meaning. Purpose gives you power because it simplifies your choices. When you know what you stand for, decisions get easier. You don't need to say yes to everything. You don't waste time chasing every opportunity. You start filtering life through a different lens. Does this align with who I'm becoming? That kind of clarity is rare, but it's available to anyone who's willing to do the inner work. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to begin. Ask yourself, what are you drawn to? What do you feel responsible for? What problem in the world stirs something in you? What kind of man do you need to become so that others can count on you, trust you, follow you? That's where purpose lies. It's not some abstract idea, it's grounded in action, in responsibility, in service. The man who lives with purpose doesn't waste energy comparing himself to others. He's not in competition with anyone because his mission is unique. That's the beauty of purpose. It creates inner peace even in the middle of chaos. It gives you a reason to suffer well, to show up even when it's hard, to do the work even when no one notices. Purpose is what makes the pain worth it. It's what gives your discipline context. It's what gives your habits weight. And when your life is aligned with that purpose, when your values, your goals, your habits, your relationships all move in the same direction, there's a kind of momentum that builds. You stop needing external motivation because you've built internal conviction. You don't need to be pushed, you're pulled. Pulled by vision, pulled by meaning, pulled by the responsibility of becoming who you were built to be. But here's the reality. Living with purpose is not easy. It demands sacrifice. It requires that you give up distractions, comforts, even relationships that no longer align. It forces you to grow, to lead, to take ownership. It holds up a mirror and says, are you living true to what you say matters? And if the answer is no, it doesn't shame you. It calls you higher. Purpose will stretch you. It will ask more from you than you thought you had. But it will also give you something in return: clarity, peace, fulfillment. Not because everything gets easier, but because now it means something. Now your suffering has a reason. Your effort has a direction, your life has a shape, and once you begin living this way, you realize something. Success is not about reaching some distant finish line. It's about becoming the man who wakes up every day and lives on purpose, who leads himself before he leads others, who is consistent not for applause, but because it's who he is. That's power, that's self-mastery, that's freedom. And when you live like that, when you become the kind of man who aligns his discipline, his inner work, and his consistency with a greater mission, you don't just change your life, you impact others. You lift those around you. You become a force for something real, something lasting. Live with intent or die with regret.